I feel that maybe I took a bit longer with this particular topic than I should have, considering its importance. I am speaking about pacing of my stories, encompassing action, characterization, building the surroundings in the present and the backstory, history, basically the big topic, world building itself. And frankly, I have very little to say about this other than the obvious that there has to be some sort of balance regarding action. This one is most probably the trickiest part for me because of my involvement in martial arts and exercising altogether. So, to write an action scene that I would be truly happy with, making sure that I keep constant track of every single appendage, that the movements are consistent with what the characters are supposed to be able to perform, that the hits and the misses lead to such consequences that make sense, and also constantly remind myself that what I'm writing is an action scene within a fictional setting, so it doesn't have to always follow every single rule of combat that I believe to be true in our world. On the contrary, to stay consistent with my views on that in other areas of storytelling, but the rules of combat in that other world needs to be introduced and to an extent adhered to. And while all this might be true, it is very important for me to be able to portray fighting when it's needed in the story in a way that I would find believable as a reader and that would draw me into the action where I would be able to follow its flow through the eyes, the experience of the protagonist without having to constantly question the writing, such as if he performed this move, how would his leg end up there when it should, according to the description of this character's body, end up there. All that has to be addressed, at least in my eyes, and despite the fact that writing fantasy allows me to loosen up a bit, I should never use it as an excuse for why is the combat so inconsistent or why are my descriptions so poor so that the reader cannot even use his imagination to fill in the gaps. But I digress. I'll get to the pacing in the next video. I'll try to touch upon the ratio, how much introduction each portion of a story needs for me to be content. But for now, the Rapideros are almost done with their new amphibious pedal car, and there is going to be an exhibition alongside with the Brotherhood's creation. The Rapideros are not exactly concerned with the Brotherhood's imaginary victory in terms of finishing their vehicle first, for the main goal of the Rapideros work on the Albatross is for it to be perfect, and the day finally comes when both are fully introduced to the public, and the public will be the judge of which car moves better. Huge crowds gather, and thus the ride begins, and the first target of the Rapideros is the river to test the capabilities of their vehicle in water. A small detail that somehow escaped the Brotherhood's investigation abilities, that it was the aim of this second generation of the pedal car to move both on the ground and in the current, but it's already too late for the Brotherhood to back out of this quote unquote competition, and so they have to follow the Rapid Arrows and their Albatross into the river. Also, since I'm feeling magnanimous, a quick description of both vehicles. The Albatross is mostly blue with a yellow stripe, red wheels, a box-like shape with two small gate-like constructions, two benches for the sleigh I meant paddlers, and one for Mirek behind the steering wheel, while the Brotherhood's creation looks pretty much like a red canoe on four wheels, Bohosh and Bristles in the back paddling, while Longpole is behind the wheel, and so reaching the depths of the river. The Rapid Arrows took out their paddles, while the Brotherhood's miscreation is currently producing bountiful geysers from the lack of anticipation this move of the Rapid Arrows. And so when Longpole declares that he is refusing to paddle any longer, paddle in the sense of using one's feet to step on a object repeatedly to move a vehicle forward, not paddle, in the sense of using a plank-like object to move a boat forward, which is what the Rapid Arrows are doing. Bristles assures him that there is no need for him to continue since they are currently in the process of sinking, which Longpole promptly follows with a declaration of water being everywhere, below the deck, on the deck, and thus every man for himself. So when the Brotherhood somehow drags their poor car back onto, I think is the preposition used here, the shore, slightly wet, they are obviously met with a slight ridicule from Speedy, comparing the Brotherhood's washed up to Albatross and its ability to, well, not sink, and the current state of the Brotherhood, which Longpole counters with an unintentional rhyme, and here I really strained the limits of my English vocabulary. He says, "You are going to be wet as well, since the dark clouds are beginning to swell." Speedy dismisses him, sends him to wipe off, and when the Brotherhood is leaving, they receive one last barb by someone from the crowd, thanking the Brotherhood for the entertainment and praising their submarine. Afterwards, the Rapid Arrows are returning to their club room in the midst of a torrential rain, and the purpose of those gate-like constructions is revealed here. It's so that a large canvas can be spread over them, shielding the crew from any unfriendly elements. So Longpole's prophecy failed short against the Rapid Arrows' thorough preparations. And meanwhile, the Brotherhood is planning revenge, Bristles swearing by his favorite black rat that they will come up with some way to repay this disgrace. And here comes the big change. It's the art direction. The illustrator changed. I don't think it's the first time since there are four listed on this book, but this one is very much noticeable. The coloration changes, and most importantly, the characters look different, clearer, less comic-y. I'm not going to judge it in any way, just thought that it was worth mentioning. And so, in the Brotherhood shack, nefarious plans are brewing, and the one they are going to settle on is that they will finish properly their submarine, seal the hull, then infiltrate the Rapid Arrows club room, drill holes into the Albatross, then challenge the Rapid Arrows to a race across the river, and that will even up the shame that the Brotherhood had received in the earlier contest. And so it begins. A formal challenge is delivered to their rivals, and despite the ridicule, the Brotherhood returns proudly, ready to carry out the second part of their plan, leaving the Rapid Arrows pondering on how is the Brotherhood going to even attempt this race, considering the fact that their washed up has more holes in it than a Swiss cheese. It is suspicious, but they are not exactly worried. And after everyone else is ready to go home, Speedy and Redcap go back to do some more finishing touches on the Albatross, do a new coat of paint over the seats, and when even they finally leave, it's the Brotherhood's time to strike. Holes are being drilled, Bristles even came up with a way to prevent their plan being spoiled too soon. They are going to lightly patch the holes with fake seals, and then there will be geysers, this time coming from their enemies' vessel and not their own. They are quite satisfied with their work, no witnesses. The only thing they did fail to notice were the freshly painted seats, and so when they are passing by another boy randomly on the streets, he takes notice and contemplates on the meaning of blue backsides and their correlation to blue blood, something his education did cover, contrary to the former, which he hasn't heard of yet. But anyway, the plan went well, and now it's time for the Brotherhood to wait for the day of the challenge. And this is where I'm going to stop. Talked a bit about pacing, action. I'm going to continue with that topic and then more Mr. Fogler's adventures.